I want to thank everybody for joining us on our webinar today, The New Frontiers of Video. Got people all throughout the world joining us. This webinar is actually part of a series of webinars we're doing on marketing excellence throughout 2016 and maybe even 2017. My name is Steve Schock, and I'm the Director of Marketing Technologies here at Macmillan, and I'll be the moderator for the webinar. So really, the chief objective of this webinar, and the series actually, is to share our experiences, our learning, and our passions for marketing. It's pretty simple, but we feel pretty strongly about it. So before we get started, I want to take about 20-30 seconds just to talk about Macmillan for those of you who don't know us. So Macmillan, we're a full services marketing agency. We're headquartered in Ottawa, Ontario in Canada. We work exclusively with business-to-business brands across a lot of different verticals. I'm very proud to say, actually, Macmillan's 20 years young this year. And from an offerings perspective, we have two primary offerings. We work on branding and we work on campaigns. Our clients are quite diverse and they're quite global. We work on emerging brands right through to Fortune 500 companies. And really, we're specialists at creating brands and reimagining brands. And we also develop multi-channel campaigns that just get results. So on to some house cleaning. So today we're using the YouTube Live platform to do this webinar. You'll see in the middle of the screen how you might want to increase the screen size, and on the right-hand side, there's a place to insert questions. We're actually going to have a question and answer period at the end of the webinar, but if you're having problems seeing the webinar, do let us know in the comment section. And due to technical difficulties, I know you can probably see the PowerPoint bar across the top of the screen. So pretend it's not there. Okay, so pretty easy agenda today. So I'm going to talk about the problem we're trying to solve with video. Then I'm going to introduce our fabulous presenters, who are then going to talk. Four folks are going to talk about interactive video, the third dimension, VR, video as user experience, and then we'll have a short question and answer period at the end. So what problem are we trying to solve right now? So, at the end of the day, we do have a content problem in the business-to-business world. Attention spans are shortening dramatically, and the amount of content being produced is growing exponentially. So people, as they absorb content, they're moving beyond those traditional forms of passive content and to content that really engages them. And it's no surprise, you've got iTunes and Amazon and Netflix. They're really conditioning people to expect more and a richer experience when they take time to actually engage with content. So you talk about the difference, between passive and interactive. So old school is kind of that passive white paper data sheets, and quite frankly, a lot of the YouTube videos out there is that passive content. But what we're going to be talking today is that interactive content that provides that richer user experience. So today we're going to kind of break down how video allows us marketers to engage their customers through multiple channels in very, very deeply immersive way. So then the big question is, why do we do this? Well, we're doing it because it works. Interactive content has shown to be much more compelling and effective at educating buyers. And what's more, it's got almost twice the conversion rate as non-interactive content as that passive content. So now that we know a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing it, let me talk a little bit about some of our speakers. So first, you're going to hear from Marissa King about interactive video. So Marissa's been in the industry for well over a decade. She's actually a video editor at Macmillan. She's got a journalism background and a good passion for storytelling. You might have seen some of her work on History Television, Bravo, or even APTN. The second speaker, a gentleman by the name of Chris Moberg, he's going to be speaking to you on 3D video. Chris has been in the industry for about 7 years, and he's actually won a couple of awards, most notably an MMVA for his work on a music video. Our third speaker, Jamie Muntean, he's been in the industry for about 15 years, and he works mostly in the animation and graphics, motion graphics space. He's worked with such brands as Disney, Universal Music, National Geographic, and as well MTV. And lastly, you're gonna hear from Casey Tourangeau on user experience in video. So Casey's been in the video and user experience for about 20 years. From a video perspective, he's produced feature documentaries, and he's actually won some awards at international film festivals. And then from a user experience perspective, Casey's worked on many global brands with us and with others, including Unify. He's worked on Intuit, CA Technologies, and most recently Commvault. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Marissa King, who's going to talk to us about interactive video.
All right, so thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today, and thank you, Steve, for the intro. So as Steve mentioned, I'm a video editor here at Macmillan, and I have many interests. My interests include sarcasm and cute fuzzy animals, but today I'm going to talk to you about one of my other interests, which is interactive video. So what exactly is interactive video anyway? Interactive video offers a viewer multiple choice points, and those choice points can be controlled through touch, click, gestures, and even the sound of your own voice. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to navigate through a video a lot like you would be navigating through a website. So you can think of it as a self-contained microsite. So when you're watching one of these videos, you can interact inside the video itself by playing with game-like experiences, filling out forms, or following along with interactive tutorials. There are three key types of interactive video. The first one I'm going to talk about is button technology, and that's where static clickable buttons are placed over top of video, and this one's great because it allows you to leverage your existing content by adding interactive elements over videos you might already have produced. The second type is choose your own adventure, and this one is my personal favorite. It allows viewers to choose different paths for the video to take, and this one really encourages repeat views, as often people want to explore multiple branches of the narrative to see how it affects the overall outcome of the story. Lastly, we have intelligent tagging, and what this is viewers can click on objects in a video and explore related content. This one's really excellent for e-commerce, as you can embed links to product pages directly within your video, and of course you can also combine all three types. So you might be asking yourself why you should care. Well, I'm going to tell you, you should care because interactive video offers some key benefits over traditional linear video. So some of those key benefits, most notably, would be increased engagement and deeper insight into customer behavior and preferences. Brace yourself, stats are coming, so this is the fun stuff. Around increased engagement, what we're seeing is that completion rates are around 90% versus 50 and 85 for linear videos. Awareness levels increase up to 149%. And click-through actually increases by up to 1,000%. Yes, you heard that right, 1,000%. So what we're seeing is engagement rates are really strong, and people are being impacted more through that engagement. When you make a video interactive, someone can spend 2 or 5 or 10 minutes interacting with the material, even if you might have only paid for, say, a 15 or 30-second spot. So now we're going to talk about the deeper insight you can achieve. So a lot of interactive video platforms can integrate with your existing data analytics software, and each choice point within a video allows you to learn about your viewer and collect information about them, which can be used for stuff like segmentation, scoring, and tailoring of content. So with the ability you have to register each choice point as a page view, you can really see what viewers are clicking on, what is or isn't working, and then using that data, you can adapt your video and your strategy in real time. Personalized choices and calls to action deliver more meaningful engagement and drive conversions 2 times the average. So the point I really want to make here is that the quality of views that you receive for interactive is much more valuable than the quality of views that you attain with standard linear video. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about IV and B2B. In 2013, Shell announced its ambition to be the most innovative energy company in the field of digital. And they're really leveraging interactive video in some beautiful and compelling ways, so I'm going to show you a couple of examples. The first one I want to show you is called the Global Energy Mix, and this one follows 3 people from around the world, and it shows you how they might use energy in their day-to-day lives.
What does an 8-year-old schoolgirl from the U.S. have in common with a restaurateur in China and a football
So as you
stadium
can see, we
manager
can
in
make a
Brazil?
choice at the bottom to follow a character. So we're
answer's
going to
simple.
choose our character from
They
China.
all need energy
And
to
at the
go
top of
about
the
their
screen,
daily
you'll notice a little
lives.
countdown that's going to show us when we're going to switch to the next
It's
part of the
Lily,
story.
And Madame Lou is on the way to her family restaurant.
And here, I'm going to click on this graphic to bring up more information.
China is growing.
And it brings up this really slick,
anticipated there
very,
will be
very pretty
29
motion graphic
megacities in
sequence that gives us
2040.
more information about the story.
City's share of global energy use is predicted to increase from today's 66% to 79% in 2040.
When my father started the
And so here
restaurant,
we
it
can
was the
choose to
first
go
in
to
the
Brazil.
area. Now we have some serious competition.
So now we're in a different branch of the narrative, and we're following our character from Brazil.
Improve the lighting. You know, just a better experience for the crowd.
So the next example I want to show you is called The Sound of Energy, and this one's really fun. You can use different energy-related objects and create your own mix to the tune of Grieg's In the Hall of the Mountain King, so we're going to play that one for you now. So as you can see, you can make choices along the left-hand side to choose your instrument. So we're starting with wind. And we're going to add a little gas to the mix. Again, another choice on the left-hand side. And we get a little breakdown here, change it up a little. And again, we have a couple more choices. And as you can see, things are sort of starting to amp up. We're coming to our big climax here. So we're going to end on some gas again. So that is just a really fun example of how Shell is using this in a really clever way. And that one was actually got me pretty jazzed. So I shared it with my team right away, and I actually played it a few times over just to kind of see what the different results would be. So what does this all mean? Well, this means that storytelling really no longer has to be linear. Interactivity allows you to really, truly choose your own adventure, and it takes you from an observer to more of a participant in the story. It encourages active engagement over passive consumption. So when you create these immersive and tailored experiences, it's been shown to lead to longer view times, increased interactions, and as I mentioned, more social sharing. So my opinion is that interactivity is going to come to be expected. It's out there now, and there's companies taking advantage of it. So if you have an idea for an interactive video that could work for a project, we'd love to hear about it. There's a lot of potential here. We do product demos, white papers. There really are a lot of exciting possibilities here, and it's something we're excited about here at Macmillan. And now I'm going to pass it over to Chris Moberg, and he's going to talk to you about the third dimension.
Hi guys, my name's Chris Moberg. I'm a senior motion designer here at Macmillan, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about 3D in the year 2016. So we're in a pretty exciting time where 3D is no longer unattainable. 3D used to be only produced by large studios with, 50 plus employees. Those studios also needed warehouses full of computers to render this 3D. However, times are changing. Computers are getting exponentially faster, and at the same time, 3D software is becoming more efficient at rendering realistic imagery. This is a photo of one of the powerful PCs we've built at Macmillan with a GeForce GTX Titan video card that takes advantage of some of these new render techniques. It's now possible for a team as small as 1 or 2 people to see a complex 3D project all the way through, from start to finish. which makes motion designers like myself and Jamie very excited. It allows for results like this without having to wait days on render times or needing a render farm with 500 plus computers. All of these are 3D renders, not photos. So I've been in the industry now for about 7 years, and what computers can do now, even compared to when I started, is pretty amazing. Needless to say, 3D has been around for some time, but with restrictions and limitations slowly being lifted over the years, it's becoming a staple in motion graphics as well as print and web. What are some other uses for 3D, other than video? I've collected a couple of examples on how to incorporate 3D in all types of work. First is a website from General Electric. They're using a nice layout with stock photography and nice graphic design. In the middle of the page, we have a stylized 3D render of an oil rig. They're highlighting a few key areas in blue to help tell the story they're trying to get across. I know for us here, it's always a constant struggle to find unique stock photos. And it's hard to differentiate yourself from others when everybody's pulling from the same source. Meanwhile, similar to iStock and Getty, there's websites with tons of 3D models. These models can be purchased for relatively cheap and stylized and designed in an unlimited amount of ways. Benefits of 3D. Companies wanting to do, say, a product demo most likely already have a 3D file that we can work with. If your company's sending CAD files to a manufacturer, there's a 99% chance we can take that same file into our software and begin animating with it. Let's say in the case of a photo shoot for a particular product, you'd need to hire a crew, say a photographer, perhaps someone to help with lighting, maybe a director. All the typical fees would come with that as well for travel and accommodations. You also need to have the right environment. Let's say the product is too large to shoot in a controlled room, or you need to shut down part of your office for a couple of days. All this comes at the cost of time and money. Whereas if this product's in 3D, regardless of its size, it can be placed in any environment. Perhaps outdoors, where we no longer need to wait for the perfect weather conditions, or in a room that you could imagine, or perhaps something that hasn't even been imagined yet, like an abstract, surreal world. The possibilities are literally endless. And let's just say 6 months down the road, there's a minor update to the product. No problem. With the 3D file, we swap that asset and re-output the video at a fraction of the cost of hiring that same photography crew, flying them back down and shutting down a corner of your office for some time. So I'm going to talk about a project we did at Macmillan almost a year ago, and it's kind of like the perfect scenario for how 3D more or less saved the day. So Pros, they're a revenue and profit realization company that use immense amounts of data and analytics to help their customers. They came to Macmillan with the ask for a 1-minute video that they would use at an internal corporate event that would be held in Houston and Berlin. The video needed to be energetic, needed to be exciting, and reflect what they do as a company for their clients. And this would get the employees excited about the conference and the year ahead at the company. Their idea was to have us create a video edit using stock footage of Formula One cars. We would then overlay graphics showing the data calculations going on inside the cars. And for those who don't know, Formula One teams use millions of calculations every second to get the most out of their cars, which would be a perfect comparison for what Pros does for their customers. And naturally, being a Formula One fan, I was all for it until I started doing a little bit of research.
Very good, very good.
And after I spent some time on both Getty and iStock, I found out that there is no stock footage of Formula One cars. And second, if there was, it would cost an obscene amount of money to license it. So instead, we purchased a Formula One car from those websites I was talking to you about and branded it with the company's logos and colors. And it looked a little something like this. And as you can imagine, tracking down a Formula One car in real life, revamping its paint job, and putting the brand's logos on there would also cost another large amount of money. So now that we have this asset, we can use it for print campaigns as well. Here's a cropped in high-resolution image of the same photo we were just looking at. Granted, rendering stills for print does take much longer, but it's possible at any resolution. So now that we have this asset, we can use it for any print campaign, any web campaign, as well as video. You also might be wondering whatever came of that original ask and that original video request. Well, we came up with a script, storyboarded out an entire video based on the company's new Hero Formula One car. I'm going to show you a clip from that video now.
In the business world, there's a lot of talk about performance, performance metrics, performance management. But to perform is simply to meet expectations, to do what is required. But you know better than that. You know that the question isn't how to perform. The question is how to outperform.
So with 3D, we're able to create this kind of abstract, sort of surreal world, nicely designed, something that would have been a lot harder to do with stock footage.
Data must drive
and for instances like this, where it goes into like a matrix style mode, where you can get to see the internal workings of the car. All this would have been doable with stock footage, but a lot more work.
It's time to fuel your revenue engine.
So needless to say, when the client saw that, they were blown away. So what I want everybody to remember about 3D is that it's versatile. It's not just for video. It can be used for both print and web as well. 3D is more compelling than stock imagery, and you have the flexibility to design it and composite it in any way you want. Your business may also already have 3D files that we can work with. Products can be placed anywhere, in any environment, whatever you can imagine. And 3D images and files are also relatively easy to update, most of the time. So with that, I'm now going to pass it over to Jamie Muntean.
So hi there everybody, my name is Jamie Muntean. I'm a motion designer here at Macmillan, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about virtual reality. So virtual reality has come a long way, and that's mainly because of the modern computing power and the new technologies. And this goes back to what Chris was saying about all this new hardware and software that we're able to get. It actually allows for us to create for VR, as well as we get to visualize it very well using the headsets. So this is kind of what people are starting to look like more often. This is a common sight that we're starting to see, is that people are at their computers, but they also have headsets when they're doing this. They're experiencing things. It's not just video games, it's also creating products in VR or in this 3D realm, but it is becoming more and more common these days. So there's a few critical ways that you view VR. Many companies are creating products for viewing VR content, and there's quite a bit of competition when it comes to that. One of the very best known names is Oculus Rift. Oculus has been around for quite some time, and the benefits of Oculus is that they create development kits for people to actually take it themselves, create some stuff that would be VR based. It could be 360-degree video, or it could be very immersive 3D. It actually plugs into the hardware, so it would actually, the headset would plug directly into a PC computer. Which gives it a lot more power, and the content that's already created out there for Oculus is very, very vast. So you get very high quality stuff, and because you're connected to that actual PC, you're able to view this with a really good refresh rate, and there is also interactivity when it comes to Oculus Rift. There's video game handsets that you could use with it. It's not just for gaming. People are starting to think further in the future where they can bring this to business and agencies. But they're also coming out later this year with a handset, and the handset is actually as if you were looking through the goggles of the VR. You could see your hands, and you'd be able to manipulate things with that. So it really is sort of the top level. There is lots of competition with that at the moment. It's just that this is probably the best known brand. So Oculus got together with Samsung and they created this thing called the Gear VR. The thing that's really nice about a Gear VR is that it's still very high quality, but as you can see, well, maybe you can't see it from the other one, but this, you don't need to be plugged into any computer of any sort. But there's a major difference here. Do you notice how the phone just clips right into the front of the headset? The phone itself, at this moment, is obviously Samsung product, but there's quite a few of the different phones on the market that will work with this, with the different sorts of Samsung pieces. This also has a little bit of interactivity built in. You have on the headset itself, you've got buttons that will allow you to move backwards, forward, so you would be able to have an immersive experience as well as a 360-degree video experience. So the next one that we have is the Google Cardboard. And the Google Cardboard, as you can see, is just literally a piece of cardboard that's folded up into pieces, and you're going to slip a mobile phone into there. This is a really, really great way to get introduced to VR, but technically what they're doing with this is only 360-degree video based, so there is no interactivity with it. It's very, very cheap. You can get your hands on one of these for not very much money whatsoever. But the downside is that this is not a really strong piece of kit. This would be fun at maybe a trade show if you had some of these. It would be a fun experience if you had a 360-degree video, but you would be much, much better off with the higher end products. So virtual reality in the corporate world. Now businesses are starting to create VR experiences. What sort of started out more with gaming and that heavy industry of gaming and the interactivity that's based in there, businesses are starting to hop on board and seeing products that they can create for their clients. So there's two types of content that are created for virtual reality consumption. We're going to have a look at what GE has been using this VR technology for. So the first one I want to talk about is 360-degree video. 360-degree video is footage-based, so it's not something that's created in a 3D program. There are little elements that you can add to this after the video's been cut and edited and put together. But for the most part, as you can see from this picture, this is an array of, let's say there's 20 GoPro cameras, and the reason why they're using GoPro cameras on this is because the very, very wide angle, the field of view that you can get from it. So when each of these things are taking the footage real time, you have to take all that footage back out in post-production, and you have to stitch it all together, which is very time-consuming, but at the same time, it actually makes for a really, really interesting experience. So when all of these things are stitched back together, it's almost as if you were sitting inside of a sphere, and if you were to look around, that entire environment is playing real time in front of you. But soon in the future, we are going to have this. This has already been built. This is called a Quantum Leap VR camera. And the difference is that it puts out very high-res video. It has live streaming capabilities. There's possibility of adding actual 3D objects to this video, which is not possible with usual 360 video setup with the GoPro. And there's going to be minimal post-production, if any. The only downside is that it's just not available yet. So GE used the GoPro 360-degree setup to create the following VR experience. It's called the GE Locomotive Tour. So we'll see what's going on into the testing of a new, more environmentally friendly locomotive. And I'm gonna play this video for you, and I will walk you through some of the steps, but I'll let you see for yourself.
Hello, UK Rifter here, and this is my youngest son.
So this is a father and son together,
so we're going to
experiencing something on the Oculus. So they would be looking at a video that is a 360-degree video that's been created. It's a linear format, so the only interactivity is just at the very start of this video, just where you turn your head. It allows you to turn on the video itself. But as you can see, it opens up, and there's some nice graphics that wrap around in the same way. But if you were to look up and down, just like the little boy's doing, you can see everything that he's seeing. As he looks around, you can see that there's live action footage in there, as well as composited graphics. So this is something that's really nice. Those graphics will stay in place even when you're moving your head around in this 3D space. We're just gonna look at a few other scenes.
Where are you? Are you in the desert?
So that's another setup. I guess the only thing that's a downside to this is that it has to be a linear narrative. So it's
much do you
based
like
on how
trains?
the director sees this, and that's how they bring you through the experience.
Much. And my train.
Yeah.
My Lego train.
Here we have
now you're riding on
another
top.
view, and if you watch the head go around, it's like looking from the back of the train to the front of the train, and you look outside, you'll see some
good?
graphics tracked to this object as it passes. It's really interesting stuff.
Are you learning a lot about trains?
So as we look at this, I just wanted to show you what a still frame would actually look like if you were to take that out of a 360-degree video and place it into your viewer. If you were to unstitch it and look what it looks like, it's literally a very, very widescreen image, and it allows you to actually see everything around you, even though it's kind of hard to look at it this way. But picture yourself being inside of that sphere. This would wrap right around it, and then it would be an image sequence that would allow you to have that video experience. The next one is just to show you how the graphics would look on this. You can see that it's very awkward looking, but once it's all stitched together, it creates that environment where you can look back, forwards, up, down, and then to have that integration with the graphics or the data would be a really nice added feature to that. So the next kind of content, so out of the two contents, this is the fully immersive 3D world. This again goes back to what Chris was saying. So it's a beautiful, highly rendered immersive 3D experience. This is you wouldn't be able to look at these experiences with the Google Cardboard. You would be able to look at a few of these experiences when you're looking at the Samsung VR, the Gear VR, but with the Oculus Rift or anything along the same lines as that, you'd be able to see these experiences. So, and as I was saying earlier, interactivity in this kind of setting will soon be possible. So we're going to look at something called the GE Subsea VR experience. It is a virtual experience allowing viewers to visualize future technologies. So the future technologies, this is when people could actually create something that doesn't exist yet. This is like demoing a concept. This is taking your viewers through the same experience that you would want to have without having to put them into the ocean and have them, without this technology actually being created yet. Or if you were to actually demo this creation, you wouldn't have to send this over to somebody. They'd get to experience it more with this kind of headset with a 3D style to it, rather than having to actually be physically there. So we'll have a look at this video. It's a little bit long. I'll walk you through it, and I just want you to see some of the aspects of it. So we're looking around. We've got our Oculus Rift headset on. We've got a little bit of interactivity saying just press the spacebar so that you can begin this. As you can see, we have motion graphics, and there's 3D elements all around us. The data is being fed to us. Again, this would be a linear storyline, so it would be based off of a full creative, just like normal video would be created. You'd have your storyboard, you would have your sort of rough sketches and all that stuff that would go together before the concept was created, and we would do a concept like this in the normal video fashion. So as you see this go underneath the water, you see all the nice little details of how the fish are swimming all around the rig. You're going to see some 3D pop up here, some nice motion graphics, just explaining some data. So to give you context of what this is a submersible that's actually looking at future oil and gas mining techniques in the ocean. So these things aren't existing at the moment, so this is a great way to kind of explore those avenues.
Look up at your gauge, Nautilus One.
So I've got a few final thoughts on virtual reality, how you could kind of bring it into different sorts of businesses. I think because we're still at the baby steps of virtual reality, there's a lot of content out there for it, but we are trying to find ways to make it really, really relevant in these other areas that are not just gaming and not just a linear storyline. I think that having the experience of being at a trade show and being able to put one of these headsets on, you can leave your audience, not only leave your audience with a great experience, but it will draw people in numbers that will want to have this experience with you. The other side to this too is it would be great to use for training. So if you have sort of dangerous training environments or working environments, this would be a very, very good way to have people train without having to actually be in the field, and they'd already have a little bit of knowledge about it before they actually have to go into the work. Virtual reality will be something great in the future. It already is right now. And
Hi everybody, I'm Casey Taranjo. I'm the leader of digital experience here at Macmillan, and what I'm going to talk to you about right now is using the video as the user experience when it comes specifically to websites. So as we've seen already, online video is definitely affecting behavior among users and among people online. And to back that up, we're going to put on our logic pants and get into some statistics right away. First, we're going to start on the consumer side here. And visitors are 64% more likely to buy a product on an online retail site after watching a video. And of that number as well, visitors who view videos tend to stay on sites an average of 2 minutes longer. But this is not just for consumers. There's actually a good business-to-business model to follow here, and here's some stats that back that up. 59% of senior business executives would rather watch a video than read text-based content. So going along what we've been saying, watching videos for information is becoming the norm and the preferred norm. 75% of that number also watch videos on business websites at least once a week. And again, of that number, 45% go on to contact vendors after watching an online video. So it's becoming an important part of the sales cycle itself. And what I want to focus on here is a basic problem I see with video on the web right now that's slowly starting to change, but has been around for a long time. And that problem stems from the fact that video itself and filmmaking in general, motion storytelling, they have a history. And that history is really rooted in the technology that they sprung from. Now, if you look at this image here, what we see is what I would refer to as version 1.0 of motion storytelling, the classic film strip, filmmaking as you would. And what this literally is a linear line of story going from beginning to end. And when these were put together, again, it was literally cutting and pasting pieces together in a plastic strip in one long line. And the result of that has been that traditional storytelling in video and film is linear. It always has a beginning, it has a middle, and an end. And if you do a search online in Google, anywhere about the paradigm of motion storytelling, you'll see that it always comes back the same way. It's a 3-act structure. It has a beginning, a middle, and end. Whether it's worded the same or not, here we have setup, confrontation, resolution. It's always going one direction, left to right. The web, of course, is completely different. If you look at this, is typical information architecture for a website. As you can see, there are multiple entry points, there are multiple flows, and it doesn't really want to tie a user into one direction. And because of this tension that's created between these two opposing ways of storytelling, video often exists on websites completely separately from the experience itself. Now, this is fine when the when your content focus is video itself. So what I'm talking about here is something like a YouTube or a Vimeo, where the user experience, the expected user experience, is to come to a site and watch a video, and that's the end of the interaction itself. Where things get a little more awkward is when video is being used as a complementary component, say as a product demonstration, as a features demonstration, or something of the like. And what tends to happen is you go from something like this, which is a beautiful modern full screen design, to watching a video like this, which is literally, with the use of a modal window here, a separate experience, a layer placed on top of the website that exists apart from it. And another example would be something like this, which is again a very modern panel design site, a long scrolling page. But as you scroll this site, you come to an interaction point like this. And this again is a place to stop, decide, are you going to watch a video, or are you going to continue scrolling up and down using the interactions that have already been defined on the site. Excuse me. So as we're seeing, the web wants to be nonlinear. The web doesn't want to force people into one direction or the other. And so what I'd like to talk about is making video part of the user flow itself. And what I'm going to do here is just give 3 quick examples that show varying degrees of achieving that and integrating the video into the actual flow of the website. And the first example I'd like to talk about is how we can use video and snippets to convey information more efficiently. We're going to watch a little example here of a website for something from Bang & Olufsen. It's called the Beoplay. It's a little sound unit. And what you see here on the website, again, it's a standard panel scrolling website. But as we move through the site, you're going to see images come up, nicely animated in. But you're also going to see some small snippets of video. And as we get down a little bit farther, here we have an actual example of the product in use. And what they've done here is use the video to actually show the benefit of using the product as opposed to a technical drawing, a photo, or something else. And again, it's used here. We scroll down, video comes up, and you can see the demonstration again. And these are autoplay videos that pop up and allow you to experience them as you're scrolling as opposed to asking you to stop and move on. The next thing we can use video for physical products specifically is to make them feel a little bit more real. And we're going to look at another little device here called the Keeker. And this is from a website that was pre-launch. And they used this cleverly to actually give the product much more heft and much more reality because it didn't exist yet. So we have some nice 3D. We'll let this load. And what you'll see is some nice 3D rendered graphics. And it's as you move through the navigation, you'll see that the actual video is tied into the navigation itself. And again, we're seeing some features and some specifications about the product, but as it moves through, we can see them pop up, and it's sort of like it's a continuous flow through this product, but it's tied right into the site's navigation. It's not asking you to go somewhere and watch a video about it. It's become part of the experience itself. The final one I'd like to talk about is about how video can be used to create a fully immersive experience. And this is a fairly extreme example using point of view video. It was a campaign on water safety, and I'll sort of talk through it. It goes by fairly quickly, but there's a point I want to talk about specifically, which is the way it uses standard web and interface behavior in a new way with the video. So it's called Day at Sea, and here you are out here. It's your point of view. You're out with your friend, who you give the control of the boat to, and then there's some sort of accident, and you fall in the water. And here's where the web behavior takes over. What you need to do is scroll, continually scroll to keep treading water and to keep from drowning. And it is amazingly immersive at the amount of time you will scroll to keep this person alive. And if you stop, you fall down and you die your death at the bottom of the ocean. So what I'm trying to show here is that online video itself, it can be more than just a passive experience. It's not something that we need to sit back and watch and then move on from. It can be integrated right into the site and right into the experience itself and become an integrated, holistic experience. And of course, this has some B2B applications. The most obvious, of course, is for physical products. We can do product overviews that lead you through, similar to the Keeker site, that lead you through highlights and points, and the animations, the video snippets become part of the navigation and part of the actual scrolling experience. Another way to make use of this would be an experiential demonstration. So something like a user interface or an overall UX for software that tends to be shown on static images on screens, or it has a lot of words and explanations to make it clear to the user. These can be used. These little snippets can be used in a holistic way, in an integrated way, to make that much more clear and convey that information much more efficiently. Also, we can better illustrate customer benefits and supporting data. This is a simpler exercise where we would have maybe charts and graphs that are animated, but instead of bringing that information in, forcing people to click on things or look at more information, it becomes part of the site itself and it becomes part of the experience. Finally, though, the one that excites me the most is the idea of a seamlessly personalized experience that keeps your users in the flow. And when I say personalized experience, I'm talking to very modern content management systems such as Sitecore that allow for implicit personalization that learns about your users as they use your site and can serve up content specific to their needs. And this ends up speaking to users in different different parts of the sales cycle and different parts of the knowledge base, and can bring up information. And because we're integrating video into the experience itself as opposed to a separate panel, it becomes an actual experience all on its own that meets that user's needs at any time and drives them forward into the sales funnel much more strongly. And with that, I'm going to pass things back to Steve Schock, who is going to open up for Q&A.
So thanks very much, Casey. So we haven't had any questions submitted online yet, but luckily we have a few questions submitted by folks through email to me in the last half hour, who will remain anonymous. So actually, funny, the first question we have is actually for Casey, so it's perfect. So it says, at what point in the marketing funnel should I start using video? Is it an early stage tactic or later stage? Does it depend on the video format type?
It doesn't depend on the type at all. I would say the answer is kind of both. You can use it at any point in the sales cycle. And again, I'm going to just back up to what I was speaking about a minute ago with the personalized experience. That if you're using intelligent content management that is learning on your users based on information such as where they're coming from, their search history, if they're using keywords to come to your site, if they've looked on certain parts of your site, then you're using the information intelligently to show the videos they need whenever they need them. So, and as we see from the stats, the numbers are going up on video consumption. So there is no wrong time to use it. People are expecting it, people enjoy it, and people prefer it. And it's more about being intelligent about what you show them and when you show that.
So we have one more. Oh, so we have a question from. I'll let you choose who wants to take it. But a fella says, much of this stuff appears to be quite expensive. Is it? It's kind of a loaded, open-ended question, but maybe compare it to passive videos, compared to just a YouTube broadcast quality or something video.
Sure. So, hi there. Thanks for your question. This is Jamie coming back for this one. So, if it was just your typical video, you're going to have X amount of dollars for budget with that kind of stuff. But when you're talking about something that's going to be, let's just say that we're talking in the 3D realm, the difference of doing something 2D or footage-based compared to 3D, the expense is going to be higher doing 3D. It's the time that needs to be put into that, absolutely. And when we're talking about the, from my part of the virtual reality side, it's definitely going to be more expensive than doing normal linear video because it's creating something different with a lot more post-production to it. And if it was going to be fully immersive 3D, it would be, I would say, like 1.5 to 3 times the time it would take to do something like that. And then the expense would have to kind of match that. So I hope that that helps or that answers what you were looking for.
Perfect. Thanks, Jamie. We've got one more question. I think I'll pull Chris up for this because it is around 3D. So, but specifically the question asks, does 3D digital render solutions say the car video, run into trouble with bandwidth in regions that just don't have it? So some parts of North America, some parts of the world just don't have high bandwidth capabilities like we do in Europe and North America. So how do we deal with bandwidth in 3D?
That is the downside to those areas. Basically, any area that you would even try and watch a YouTube video, if you can't watch videos there. Any web or video content that we develop also won't be able to be viewed in that area, unfortunately.
Right. So the good thing is there's no disbenefit from a bandwidth perspective doing 3D. If you can see video, you can see video, and it's whether it's 3D or flat, the bandwidth is no problem.
Absolutely.
Correct. Just to kind of add on to that, encoding standards, regardless of the format within the video, are the same for video in general. So as Chris was saying, bandwidth is only a consideration where standard video would be a detriment.
Perfect. So we are coming up to the top of the hour, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I just want to take this time to thank everybody very much for attending the webinar. Thank you for bearing with us for the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning. Newton's Law, of course, we did this a couple times, and of course it's happening now. So I want to just mention one last thing here. We do have, like I said, this is going to be a series of webinars, and we do have another webinar coming up near the end of February. We're going to be getting into marketing technologies, space I love. We're going to talk about the digital stacks and does one stack fit all. So we hope to see you at the next webinar and at some of the future webinars. Thanks very much.